What's up, geeks and gamers? It's Odin coming back with another video, and today we're talking about the box office for this weekend. And this is actually quite surprising for me because I honestly thought that Detective Pikachu had a decent shot at taking the #1 spot this weekend, but unfortunately it looks like it's going to be missing out on just a few $1,000,000. Now, of course, these are just estimates, so for all I know, Sunday could be a crazy number for Detective Pikachu, and that could end up actually having it beat Avengers Endgame. Does not really seem likely that it'd be the case, though. This film has made $58 million for the opening weekend, which is pretty damn good, I would say, for a PG film, for a Pokemon movie nonetheless. So very strong showing. It's actually doing some decent numbers across the world as well, and we'll get into all of those numbers in a second. But Avengers Endgame is indeed still at the very top with $63 million. Not nearly as much as I think they were expecting, but you need to kind of understand this, that means the domestic total for this movie is now well over $700 million, which is pretty insane when you think about it. It makes it the highest grossing as far as domestic takes from the MCU so far. The other one had been, up to this point, Black Panther with $700 million, and so now this has surpassed Black Panther in those domestic totals, and it is just doing crazy numbers. It's doing very, very crazy, crazy good. It is slowing down quite a bit, though, so people are starting to speculate, is it going to have enough juice to get to the $3 billion mark? I think it has a lot smaller of a chance to make it a $3 billion as far as right now, but I do still think it's going to end up beating Avatar, just because I do think that it's going to continue to make money over the next several weeks, and it's going to slowly inch its way closer to that $2.7, $2.8 billion number. And eventually it's going to reach it. The Hustle is a film that no one asked for because it is once again, one of these gender swap films. If you've ever heard of a movie called Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, The Hustle is the all-female version of that story, which again, no one wanted to see. People don't want to even see remakes of those films, let alone a remake that the only main difference is that it's a gender swap film. No matter what actresses you put in there, at least be original. At least create something new. At least try and tell a new story with those actresses, and not just to take these old stories and say, oh, here's what we can do. We're going to go ahead and tell the same exact story, only now what we're going to do is we're just going to change the gender of the leads. I'm sorry. No one wants to see that nonsense. No one wants to see that. Create new stories. Stop trying to everything has to be, prequel, sequel, gender swap. Everything has to be remake, and we're just getting sick and tired of it. And so, really hope this film totally falls off the map. And opened around 3,000 theaters, only made $13.5 million. I hope it makes nothing going forward. Honestly, I hope this movie loses money for the studio, because they need to learn. These studios need to learn that you can't just continue to put out this trash and expect people to actually go see it. Seriously. I know some people are like, why are you being so angry about this? I'm sorry. If you've seen the trailer for it, just think, and if you've ever seen Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, you'll know, yeah, they totally only did this because they wanted to get the female representation on screen. And another big one that came out was Tolkien. This one definitely not as nearly as big as the others. It came out around 1,400. Almost 1,500 screens, and made about $2.1 million. Fox Searchlight. This is a film that has a lot of issues with it because the Tolkien estate, didn't really have anything to do with it and didn't want to have anything to do with it. So it is definitely getting a lot of mixed reviews because of that, I feel. Based on the people that are in the movie, though, I still kind of want to see it. I will say overall, though, it does make a little bit of sense that when you don't have the Tolkien estate on the side, it's not going to end up doing that well overall. All right, getting into the individual numbers themselves. Avengers Endgame, $2.485 billion, and I said that it was probably going to get around 2.5 to 2.7 billion by the end of this weekend, and obviously these are still numbers that are rolling in as we go through, and so I would not be surprised if by tomorrow morning or tomorrow evening the number is indeed past that $2.5 billion mark. And if that's the case, I think that we could definitely say that by the end of next weekend, it'll be close to 2.6, 2.7, and by the end of the following weekend, it's at least 2.7, 2.8, and if it's doing very well, 2.9. It's obviously slowing down a lot. It's obviously not going to make that much more money going forward. I mean, the first 3 weeks is when films tend to make the vast majority of their money. First 2 weeks especially, you have films that normally end up taking around 60% of their entire box office take, sometimes even more. And so now with 3 weeks in, it's made a crap ton of money. It's likely going to slow down a lot, especially since you got John Wick coming out next week. You got Aladdin coming out of that, and then you've got, I don't think Aladdin's going to do crazy numbers, but still, competition nonetheless. And then after that, you've got Godzilla King of the Monsters, which I do think is going to do crazy numbers at the box office. Maybe not being one of the highest grossing films of the year, but I would say that it probably will be up there. I could see Godzilla being that type of film that crosses the $1 billion mark within within 3 to 4 weeks or so. But of course, that still remains to be seen. We have to wait for those opening weekend numbers. All right, getting into Detective Pikachu. This is a great film, guys. Seriously, go out and see it. If you are a Pokemon fan, you will thoroughly enjoy this film. There are so many great references in it, and it's not like it's not a movie that's meant to be taken seriously, obviously. I mean, it's a Pokemon film. It's a Pokemon film, and it is meant to be taken, silly. I mean, you are dealing with CGI characters that are existing in the real world, that are not actual real things, and I think that the CGI, for the most part, is done very well. And I think that the fact that they spent around $150 million on this movie, you kind of see where that money went to on screen, because it pretty much went to the CGI. It didn't really go to the story. It didn't really go to the actors. It went specifically to that, and it also went, of course, to supporting Ryan Reynolds, who makes this film. I don't think this film would have been nearly as good without that voice work from Ryan Reynolds, but because of that, I think that this film was able to have that more, I guess you could say, more adult PG, where there are certain jokes that are going to go way over the kids' heads, but adults are going to be able to appreciate. And I always love when films are able to do that, because what it means is that it's a well-done film. It's not just trying to, appeal to that lowest common denominator, but it's being made for all people. It's being made for fans. It's being made for Pokemon fans, for kids, for families. And I like when films are made for lots of people and not just a very small subsection of it. But also, too, if you go to see it very quickly, I don't know how long they're going to be at the theater, but at my theater, they actually gave you Pokemon cards, which was really cool because this is something that I have not experienced since I was a kid. And so I must say, I felt like a kid again, because as soon as I went in and gave my ticket to the ticket person, they gave me this little booster pack. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have not held a booster pack of Pokemon cards in 20 years. And so it was just really cool to have that moment, have that experience, and actually be able to open it and get 2 holographic cards. So I got a holographic Bulbasaur and 2 Detective Pikachus, because my wife gave me hers because she really liked the film, but doesn't mean that she's necessarily a giant Pokemon fan now, but she really enjoyed it, and she's not a Pokemon fan. So I think that kind of tells you a little bit about it, that even if you're not a Pokemon fan, you'll like it. Though I do think if you have any knowledge, especially of Gen 1 stuff, you will thoroughly enjoy this film. As I said, The Hustle, Anne Hathaway, Rebel Wilson in a gender swap film. No reason for this film to exist. It's already made $27.2, which is, I think, $27 million more than what it should have made. I really hope this film just falls off the face of the earth, so that way they realize, no, we cannot continue to make crappy gender swap films where the only main premise and the only reason why it exists is because they wanted to tell a story with different genders on the screen. And then we have also Tolkien as well. Tolkien coming in with $2.1 million. This is a film, it's a very limited release film. Nicholas Hoult, Lily Collins, I really do like them a lot. I think that they're very talented, and so that's why I still really do want to see it, to be able to support it. However, because of the fact that it is not being done in association with the Tolkien estate, and because they did not really want to be associated with it in the first place, it really does start to make me question whether or not this film is going to actually do justice to the life and the legacy of J.R.R. Tolkien. And overall, just makes me want to actually go watch the Lord of the Rings movies instead, because those are films that are obviously done with associations with the Tolkien estate, which is why I think they are so good. But guys, what are y'all's thoughts about this? Have you seen any of these films? Are you excited about any of these films? I can tell you this right now. I am so freaking excited for John Wick Chapter 3. We have that coming out this Thursday. I've already got my tickets for it, going to see it in Dolby opening night, and I cannot freaking wait to see it. And I think and really hope that that's going to be the first film that actually bump Endgame off as far as the #1 film. I think that definitely you could have a situation where John Wick 3 does become that first film to finally knock it off. And unfortunately, Aladdin's going to take the #1 spot the next weekend, just because Disney's going to do everything it can to put it in as many screens as possible with all the 3D showings and all the nonsense. And I think that that's going to basically guarantee Aladdin, no matter how few people actually go to see it, because I have no interest in seeing it, or let alone paying to see it. But I will say that I think that they're going to be able to at least get it to enough, similar to Captain Marvel, where not a lot of people necessarily saw it, but because of that average ticket price being as high as it was, it ended up making $1 billion. Now, do I think that Aladdin's going to make $1 billion? I really hope not. I really hope it falls more in lines with the Dumbo remake, where it's just a movie that exists and makes a little bit of money, but in the end is mostly a flop in comparison to what expectations are. Because, as I said before, just like with the Hustle, just like with anything else, I'm so sick and tired of these studios remaking, rebooting nonstop instead of telling new original stories. That's why I'm so excited for John Wick 3. Yes, people are going to say, but isn't that a trilogy? Isn't that technically a sequel? The difference, though, is that is a movie, that is a concept that was created as an original in 2014. When the first film came out in 2014, it was an original concept, and it was awesome. And then they made the sequel a couple years later, and guess what? They stayed true to the original material, and they expanded upon it, and it's still awesome. John Wick 3, apparently, based on early reviews, does that exact same thing and adds to it, focusing mostly on just John Wick being a badass person. So I'm very excited. Anyway, guys, what are y'all's thoughts about any of these films? Have you seen any of them? Detective Pikachu, great film. Really, honestly, great film. I think you should check it out. Again, objectively, there's some flaws to it for sure. There's one line in there that you could say is semi-woke, but I think that honestly, when you look at it within the context of the moment that it happens, it'll just go over your head and say it to yourself, I mean, it wasn't necessary, but overall, it wasn't that bad at all. It has to do with climate change, but again, it's not really that big of a deal. And again, I would say it's a very good time, especially for a Pokemon fan. It's a great time, and I would say see it sooner rather than later, so that if you do want to have any Pokemon cards, hey, you'll have an opportunity to do so if you're a collector, because I know that at my parents' house somewhere, I have my collection of old Pokemon cards, and so it would actually be kind of cool to try and find those again and be like, hey, I wonder what Pokemon cards I have in comparison to what they have now. I haven't had a holographic card in a long time, too. So let me know your thoughts about this film if you've seen it, but also Endgame. Have you seen it yet? Are you one of the few people out there? Again, $2.4 billion. This is a film that I really do think is going to beat Avatar, and I kind of hope it does, because even though I have all the issues that I have with both Avatar and Endgame, if I had to choose one to have that #1 spot, it would be this film, and that's just because of the 11 years it took to build up to this moment. Even though I don't think it did a good job ending it, I do think that overall it is more deserving. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching the video. If you like this video, smash the like button, give it a subscribe. Seriously, you're all amazing people. Go check me out over on the Odin's Movie Vlog channel if you want more content over there as well. You're all awesome. Have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless.